Right guys, welcome to a brand new video on the channel. Wow, I'm finally back doing some stuff for my YouTube channel. It is obviously great to be back. I've had some personal things that I had to settle and still have those personal things that I need to settle because I'm hopefully going to have a plan I'm not going to say it. I'll say it when the time does come in about a couple months. However, today I am going to be doing finally my 2023-24 Premier League predictions. And obviously I'll be going from 1st to 20th. More of it's just guesswork, a bit of logic, but also just a bit of fun and creativity. But yeah, this is going to be my Premier League predictions for this upcoming season. I'm not going to talk too much on like literally every team. I'll just give like a brief reason why, and that's really it, to be honest, because the season literally starts in about 24 hours from now. So let's actually get started. 20th place in the Premier League. I had two teams in this position in 20th, but I think because of the recent transfer of Sanderberg from Sheffield United to Burnley, I'm actually having Sheffield United in 20th. I just think that they are coming up to the Premier League an even worse squad than what they were when they actually did come up. Now, obviously, they lost Ndai, Burge, and a few other players, and I just don't really see Sheffield United as a team that will really trouble too much teams. I mean, I've said that about Bournemouth last season and they stayed up. But I just think that it's a different situation. I think Sheffield United are probably going to be what Norwich City were a couple of times in the recent times that they were in the Premier League. Yeah, they come up, but they're going to go down, to be honest. And I just think Sheffield United, unfortunately, will be relegated in last place, which is a surprise because actually most people have this team at the bottom of the league, but I don't. I have them second bottom, still relegated, and that is Luton Town. Now, Luton Town, to be honest, they remind me of Blackpool 2010-11, and that was like my first ever time watching the Premier League, I think. And I love that team, even though they went down in 19th. This Luton Town team, I think, will be a little bit more pragmatic, not as open, but it will be very interesting to see how well they perform, especially at home, because I don't expect them to win. They'll probably win like one away game, maybe, but I just don't think that they don't have the quality to survive. But I think if they do go down, I think they have the quality to come back up to the Premier League and have that experience from that point on. And I just think that Luton Town, it will be a great story to see them. Cannot wait to watch them in the Premier League. It will be like my first time, obviously, a lot of people's first time. So yeah, but unfortunately, I just think quality for majority of Luton Town's games, especially some of them at their own ground as well, I just think quality will shine through. I just think experience in the top flight, knowing how to get it done. Unfortunately, I have Luton Town in 19th. In 18th, I was debating on three teams. They're not going to be in a similar, well, they will be in a similar spot because I just think that all three teams have a shout each as to why they would go down. And the team I'm going with to go down is, this is going to be tough to say, but I'm going with Wolves. I have Wolves getting relegated in 18th. And the reason why I say this, I just think the club is currently at turmoil. I know on paper their squad is still good, but I just think that the whole turmoil around Wolves at the moment is going to plague them throughout the course of the season. And we've seen this happen with Leicester City last season, whereby it was kind of frictionless in Leicester. I just think it's similar to Wolves. And yes, I know they brought in Gary O'Neill, so maybe that's a bit of a fresh start. But even hearing from like Bournemouth fans, you know, they don't really think he was that great of a manager, and I just don't think that he has the know of really bringing an even better squad like Wolves surviving relegation. But I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves also survive relegation. But I just don't see it with them this season, and unfortunately, I have Wolves going down. But maybe they'll prove me wrong and they'll finish like 13th or whatever. But we'll see. In 17th place, just avoiding relegation, I have Fulham. Fulham I have in 17th, which is a big drop from what they were. They finished 10th last season. In my preseason predictions from them last season was 19th, so kind of similar. But I just think that now with the absence of a few players that they probably have lost, and even someone like Mitrovic wanting to leave Fulham to go to Saudi Arabia, there's been links with Marco Silva to go to Saudi Arabia. I just think maybe at some point in the season it might come up, especially if Fulham are in a precarious position in the league. I just think that Fulham will be one of the teams that will just have a drop off this season, like somewhat like a wild card, because I'm not saying it was a false position that they finished 10th, but I just think that it'll be a tough second season for them. But I think they'll have just enough to stay up, but we'll see. In 16th, I have Everton. Now I feel like with this Everton team, I think at some point they will go down. But the only reason why I have Everton just staying up is because of it's the final season at Goodison Park, and you just feel like the last few games of the season, if Everton are in that relegation battle, I think the home crowd will just lighten it up, and I believe that Everton's final home game at Goodison Park is against Sheffield United. If Everton win, they survive relegation, like secure it, I think that would be, it's not the best send-off, but it will be quite a send-off, securing survival on the second to last game of the season, final home game at Goodison. I just think it's written in the stars. However, I do think that there's also a case whereby Everton can go down as well. So they have to be careful. But I just think that this season they'll just maybe at least two worse teams than Everton. And I just think that maybe it'll just pull them through. We'll see. In 15th? In 15th place, I have Nottingham Forest. I have Nottingham Forest to finish in 15th. I think Steve Cooper, I had Forest staying up last season, my predictions before, and just, for me, I'm not a Forest fan or whatever. You tell that to Mark Goldbridge, but I kind of like the history and the story of Nottingham Forest, with their 2 Champions Leagues or European Cups, whatever, especially learning about them and all that. Seemed like a very cool club, I would say. Not my second pick team or whatever, I only care about Newcastle United, obviously. But, I think it's a bit of, I think Forest, they just need to have some stability in the Premier League, because I think last season they didn't really have that stability, even though they had points in the season. I just think that they need to at least stabilize themselves. So I think 15th would be, it's an improvement from 16th, so I have Forest in 15th. In 14th place. In 14th, this is going to be, I think, I don't know how controversial this will sound. In 14th, I might go for them. 14th, I have Crystal Palace. Now, the reason why I have Crystal Palace in 14th is I just think that maybe Michael Olise will leave. So that's kind of like a little transfer prediction. But I just think that Palace, they haven't really made any signings at this point. Maybe if they sell Olise, then maybe they'll use some of that funds to bring in some new players. And I just think that appointing or keeping Roy Hodgson on a permanent job is probably not the wisest, I would say. I think they needed that progressive manager, but and I just think that it'll be middle of the road for Crystal Palace this season. And that's where I have them. I have Palace in 14th. In 13th place, I think this will be a bit of a surprise for the majority of the season. I have Bournemouth. Finishing in 13th. So just rounding up that row. I think Bournemouth will have a very good season. They could even make the top 10, I will say that. But I just think that there's just even much more competition in the league this season. But I think Bournemouth are in the right step in terms of doing what they did in the first sort of spell, 5-year spell in the Premier League, whereby they become a mainstay in the Premier League. And I think the appointment of Iraola, I think, is a very good appointment for Bournemouth. And it will take time, but I think it will click for Bournemouth, if not, near the end of the season potentially. So I do think Bournemouth will stay up. I don't think they'll, for the majority of the season, I don't think Bournemouth will be in a relegation dogfight. But when it comes to crunch time, I think Bournemouth will stay up and finish the season strong. That's why I'm predicting for Bournemouth 13th, which is better than what they did last season. Now we're going to that sort of mid-table. In 12th place, I have West Ham United. I just think that the sell of Declan Rice, and there might be a potential sell of Lucas Paqueta. Do I think he'll leave? From what I've seen, it looks like he could. And I just think that there will just be a little bit of struggle. But I think with the additions of potentially Harry Maguire, Scott McTominay, and they just brought in Edson Alvarez, who I rate from Ajax. He was last summer linked to Newcastle United. I just think it will be an indifferent season. I think it will be somewhat similar to last season, whereby West Ham will be in a bit of a relegation dog scrap or whatever, sorry. But will ultimately pull through, and I just think that maybe the quality will just shine through in the end for West Ham to finish in and around that area of the league table. I don't see West Ham finishing in the top 5, top 6, what they were, 2 or 3 seasons ago. And I just think that Moyes will probably leave, and who they bring in remains to be seen. It could be Marco Silva from Fulham. If that's the case, who knows. But I have West Ham in 12th. In 11th, I think this will be a surprise for many people because they did so well last season. I have Brighton in 11th. And people will be like, oh my god, how do you have Brighton so low? I think when people say, oh, Europe will be a challenge, which will be for both West Ham and Brighton, but I think Brighton, with the style of play, I just think that there will be a lot of teams in the Premier League that will catch them out rather than in Europe. So it's kind of like somewhat of a trade-off, I would say. I think Brighton will take the Europa League seriously. I think they can go far. Whether they'll win it, I'm not sure. But I think I wouldn't say it will have a knock-on effect. I just think that their style of play, like playing out from the back or whatever, I think will have Premier League teams kind of catch them out in that way. But when it comes to Europe, in the Europa League, I think they will do well, Brighton. So I have Brighton in 11th. It will be a disappointment for them to finish there. And I think maybe the season after, they'll come back and finish in the top 8, top 7, whatever. So for now, I have Brighton in 11th. So that's a bit of a bold prediction, I would say. And in 10th, starting at the bottom half, the top half, bottom of that table, is in 10th. I have Burnley. Finishing in 10th. I think Burnley will be that sort of Fulham, sort of surprise package. Even though Fulham were more tipped to go down compared to Burnley, I think what Vincent Kompany has done for Burnley, I think they will do their style of play and how they play football, Burnley. And I think they're just a little bit more of a welcome addition now to the Premier League than what they were before, where it was more long balls, whatever. I just think that the new Burnley way of playing football, I think will surprise a lot of people. especially either home and away. So I do think Burnley will have a very, very good season, especially 10th place finish for a newly promoted team. I think will be very good, even though technically Burnley have been in the Premier League for a long while before they got relegated. But that's why I put Burnley 10th. I think that will be a very good season for them by their standards, especially for Vincent Kompany. So yeah, Burnley 10th, maybe a surprise. In 9th, this will surprise a lot of people. I have Tottenham finishing in 9th. The reason why I have Tottenham in 9th, and this I think will be a bit of a, as I said, there's a few teams that will have trade-offs. It may happen throughout the course of this season or the following season. I just think that Ange Postecoglou, whether Harry Kane stays or leaves, of course it does matter, but I just think that this team, the Ange Postecoglou way, whatever, playing attacking football, I just think that with the squad that Tottenham have in terms of the dross that they have in seasons past with Dyer, Sanchez, Emerson Royal, Skip, and Lloris. I didn't even know Lloris is still at Tottenham. I thought he'd already left. But yeah, I just think that for Tottenham, this season will be a bit of a step back. Somewhat, I wouldn't say a reality check, but more like there will be times whereby Tottenham will get battered, like 4 or 5-0, maybe to Brentford on the opening day. Just a little bit of a surprise prediction. I think Brentford will beat Tottenham like 3, 4, 5-0 in the opening day. However, there might be times where Tottenham win 3-2 against like Manchester United at home the following weekend. So I just think it'll be that sort of season for Tottenham, whereby there'll be games where they will be outclassed, but there'll be games whereby we see the Postecoglou ball, whatever they call it, playing in full effect. So that's why I have Tottenham in 9th. I think this will be still a transitional season, but I think the following season, 24-25, I think Tottenham will really push and maybe surprise people in that particular season. But I think for the here and now, I just have Tottenham in 9th. It'll be a bit of a step back because they finished 8th. Now I'm putting them in 9th. But I think the following season they'll jump up the league, Tottenham, because I just think that there needs to be that Kane situation. If he stays beyond this season, maybe it'll be good. We'll have to wait and see. Now, the top 8. Now, just missing out on Europe potentially, I have Brentford. I am predicting that Brentford will have another good season. They finished now. So it's basically Tottenham and Brentford switch places. This time Brentford finishing ahead of Tottenham. I think Brentford will have a very good season, even with Ivan Toney suspended or whatever. I just think that the core of Brentford, the system of Brentford, given that they're also not in European football, which is why maybe teams like Brighton and West Ham not really perform as well. I think Brentford, without European football, I think they'll continue to push. They want to continue to build that sort of model that they have. And, Brentford and Brighton are kind of similar clubs. Brentford want to sort of emulate the sort of achievements that Brighton have had in the past 1 or 2 seasons and maintain a top 10 finish and maybe even push for the European places. I think 8th, I'm not sure if that will somehow get a team like Brentford into like the Conference League or whatever, but I think Brentford will have a very good season. And I think there will be, what do you call them, a surprise package? I think for them to finish even higher, I think will be. So yeah, I that's my neck out on the line for Brentford. I think Brentford will do well. Maybe famous last words, we'll see. Now we're getting into the sort of European places. In 7th, I have Aston Villa. Now, there was just recent news that unfortunately, and I do not wish injury or whatever upon any player or anyone, Emi Buendia, I think, has suffered an ACL or at least a really bad knee injury, which will probably keep him out for a few months or even the entire season. But that's not the reason why I put Aston Villa 7. I just think that there will be focus in the Conference League for Aston Villa. And if you remember when West Ham, when they were first in the Europa League and they reached the semi-final, and lost to Eintracht Frankfurt. I think it will be somewhat of a similar season for Aston Villa. In this case, it will be Aston Villa, whereby I think Aston Villa will go far in the Conference League. Whether they'll win it, I know a lot of people say they will. I think the aim and the expectation is they should win it. But I think that Aston Villa will have a good season. Whether it will end in European glory, we'll have to wait and see. But I think Aston Villa will have a very good season. It's just that it's surprising stat is actually Unai Emery hasn't finished in the top 5 of a European league before, apart from his time with, who is that? PSG. No, actually top 4 league, whatever. Because I see some people may be putting Aston Villa on 4th. I just don't think that would be the case, especially when they have European football to at least add on to it. And I just think that Aston Villa will have a good season, but I think for now 7th I think is a good benchmark for Villa, and I think for them to match it, I think would be a good season for them. Maybe with European glory as well. Now, top 6. I think this will be a surprise for many people because a lot of people have them as high as 2nd and as low as maybe 5th, but not 6th. I had them 6th last season and I was surprised. It's Manchester United. And it's not because, oh, I hate Manchester United, whatever. I just think that this season will be a bit of a, I'm not going to say stumbling block. I think Manchester United will have a good season, but I just think that the teams around them are also going to match Manchester United's level, whereby maybe it will be Manchester United will just fall out a bit. Maybe a bit of a setback season for Manchester United, and for them to finish 6th would be a very, very bad result of a season for them, a failure in the eyes of Manchester United. But here's the trade-off. I think the following season, 24-25, I think Manchester United will learn from that sort of setback of finishing from 3rd to 6th. I think they can kick on after this season. I just think that right now, I don't think they'll kick on just yet. And that's why I have them in 6th. Look, I can be proven wrong and they'll probably finish like 2nd or 3rd. But these are just predictions. And to be honest, who cares about my predictions? You're just here to get my opinion on each team, basically. Now, going into 5th place. Potentially making Champions League football, maybe not. Look, I don't care. In 5th, I have Chelsea. I have Chelsea finishing in 5th. And the reason why I have Chelsea very high up, even above Manchester United, is because I just think that, Pochettino, I think he has a very good core of players to work at his disposal at Chelsea. And I just think that for Chelsea this season, I think the aim is to try to get back into the Champions League. Whether 5th place actually gets you in the Champions League, we'll see. I just think that there will be majority parts of the season whereby Chelsea look really good. But I think it will also have times in the season whereby Chelsea can go on a bit of a bad run of form, whereby it could hamper them in the quest to get into the top 4. And maybe that's where it just hits them like stumbling, just unable to catch up in the end. But I think that Chelsea are, maybe famous last words, building for something, but we'll have to wait and see. Now the top 4. Now you can kind of see why I haven't put my club yet. But I'll put us, Newcastle United, in 4th. So that means I'm saying that we will match our league finish of last season where we finished 4th. I'm saying we'll finish 4th again. However, this is not delusion, right? And maybe you guys will clip this. If this somehow happens, because I think it's not hopium, whatever you want to call it. I don't agree when people say Newcastle will finish 7th, 8th, 9th, and they'll be happy. No, I think that the standards of Newcastle United. Why did we bring in Sandro Tonali to finish 8th? No. Why did we bring in Harvey Barnes? I don't rate him, but why did we sign him to finish 8th? That's not improvement. That's not progress. And I think if you want to, for a club like us, I think getting Champions League football at the bare minimum has to be the bare minimum for us in order to continue to be, I wouldn't say taken seriously by fans or pundits, whatever, but it's to be a very competitive club, a club that is now becoming a mainstay in the top 4, or at least in a bigger Champions League club. And this is why I think that might be the case. But here's the sort of other story. There's a world, I can see a world whereby Newcastle United are competing for the Premier League title. You can call this hopium, delusion, whatever. Look, I'm just a football fan and I want my club to do well. But I'm sweating, I don't know why. I have the fan blowing, but I can see a world whereby we are challenging for the Premier League title. That said, I'm not going to fully back that just yet. That's why I have us in 4th. I think we'll finish in 4th. Champions League, I think that might be the sort of trade-off. I think quarter-final, semi-final, maybe have that coupled one. But embarrass ourselves in the domestic cups, go out early in the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. I don't want that to happen. I want us to win it. But I think that's a little bit of a trade-off that we'll have to suffer and go on another trophyless season. But I think 4th and a somewhat deep run in the Champions League, I think would be a sign of progress in that regard. And that's where I think will happen. Let's see how that pays off. And maybe Newcastle United are actually in a title race in March, April, May. Who knows? That would be amazing because I can see a world whereby that happens. But enough talk on Newcastle United. Let's go into the team I predict to finish in 3rd, and that team is Liverpool. I have Liverpool finishing 3rd. I know there's a lot of issues in terms of the midfield and defense, and I think that might be the downfall in terms of like being able to challenge Manchester City, most likely Manchester City, for the Premier League title. But I think they'll be in a swap the Man United Liverpool seasons, whereby Liverpool were the ones doing bad, Man United did well. I think it will be a bit of a swap for both. Man United not doing so well this season, and Liverpool doing well, finishing 3rd. That's still not good enough from Liverpool's standards. But I think that the reason why I have them as high as 3rd is more so on the attacking threat. I think there'll be a lot of Liverpool games whereby they'll attack a lot and they'll score a lot of goals. Like they can win games 4, 5, 6-0, whatever. But they can also, with the defense and midfield, when their attack is not on it, they can lose 1-0, 2-0, 3-0. And that's where I kind of have Liverpool this coming season. Still good to make a top 4 challenge, but not good enough to compete for the title. Now, who's going to win the Premier League and come second? My prediction to win the 2023-24 Premier League season is... drum roll please. I'll put them in 1st. I'll put them in 2nd. I have Arsenal Football Club as my predicted winner. At this moment in time, my predicted winner for the 2023-24 Premier League season, and I have Manchester City finishing in 2nd. Now, how will the title race go? I think it will be somewhat similar to last season, whereby it is those two teams going neck to neck. And I think it will this time go to the final day. And I think, I don't know, I have a feeling that we'll get a somewhat of a Aguero sort of moment. but this time in reverse, whereby it damages Manchester City in terms of them not winning the Premier League title and Arsenal winning the Premier League title. I'm not going to say that Man City will be a terrible team this season. I think they'll, compete with Arsenal till the final day of the Premier League season and maybe just miss out by 1 point or 2 points or whatever. I don't think by goal difference. I think goal difference, Man City wins that. But I think Arsenal, I think the standard since competing for the Premier League title has to be to win it. And I think Arsenal will cope with that pressure. And I think Arsenal will go on to win the Premier League. But will that affect them in the Champions League? Unfortunately, Arsenal fans will say it will. I think Arsenal will exit early in the Champions League. Not in the group stage, but maybe like last 16, something like that. But that in return, Arsenal win the Premier League. And I think that's where I have the Premier League season. So, just rounding up the table. I know this has been maybe about 30-something minutes long. But my Premier League, as it stands, my predictions are that it's very different. It's very different, wild, different from a lot of other content creators who have Man City, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool as that top four in that sort of order. And then it's like Chelsea, Aston Villa, Newcastle around there, Tottenham, maybe something like that. And I just think that this season is going to be a very unique season, but also a very challenging season for a few clubs. Some clubs will rise up to the occasion, like for example, Brentford, Newcastle United, I think, Chelsea, Aston Villa, Arsenal. But then there will also be clubs that will find it challenging, like Liverpool for the majority of this season, I'm predicting. Manchester United, Tottenham, Brighton, West Ham, Fulham even. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching my 2023-24 Premier League predictions video. Obviously the season starts literally in about 24 hours of this recording, but maybe in a few hours when this is posted. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I will be doing live streams, hopefully for all of Newcastle United's 38 Premier League games, and maybe all of our Champions League games as well. But yeah, live watch along of Newcastle United versus Aston Villa, the teams I predicted 4th versus 7th. I'll be doing a live watch along Saturday, 5:30 p.m. UK time, kickoff, just half past midnight here where I'm from, on Sunday. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button, give this video a like, let me know in the comments if I'm I am terrible at predicting. Say that. Oh, how dare you put Manchester United in 6, you dumb twat, or whatever, look, let's see. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.